All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a featured speaker series brought to you by San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, Parent Summit 2020, virtual style since we can't be in person due to this pandemic. But welcome everybody. It's so nice to have you all here today. As I said, my name is Mars Cerna and I do represent San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, our Family and Community Engagement Office. And today I have a wonderful friend, colleague, our guest speaker for the day, who works for the County of San Bernardino Children's Network. And he has been instrumental in the past several years now, leading the work of our Inland Empire Fatherhood Involvement Coalition. I have the honor of I still sit somewhat, it's kind of a quasi board, but I was a founding father of the Inland Empire Fatherhood Involvement Coalition, or as we know it as IEFIC. And later on in the years, Juan Solis has come to us to be a full-time manager of this initiative, along with many other things that he does for our county. So I want to introduce you today to a great guy who is a father, a husband, a community leader. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Juan Solis.
Thanks, Mr. Mars. Always a pleasure speaking with you, catching up with you. Honored to be here. Definitely, all the work that we've done, all the work that you've done that you're well aware of has led up to all the work that we're doing collectively now in our county, looking at father involvement, the importance of the fatherhood role. Obviously not taking away anything from the mother role, because we know that mothers are as equally as important. And so this is just to strengthen the family unit. So honor to be here. Love getting involved with the schools. Huge part there as well with our fathers being involved with the schools. So definitely an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, sir. And so today our goal is to really talk about, as you said, not downplaying the role of the mother, because our mothers, our queens, do a tremendous job making sure that our kids are clothed and fed and nurtured and everything that comes with, as we would say, the quasi duties of a mother. But we all know that research has shown that when fathers are actively engaged in particularly the education of their children, that they do better exponentially. And it does not matter if the father is in the home or outside the home. The goal is that the father is engaged. And so today we're going to have a real serious conversation around that. And Juan, you have, I think both of us have experiences. I'm a father of 4 biological children and a niece that I'm raising right now, and they go from the age of, 31 all the way down to 15, and then my niece is 11. I have now 3 grandchildren, so I'm trying to think about that from a perspective of, legacy and just how life in general takes you to these different roles. And I know you have children, and I've seen you actively engaged in soccer and sports and the community events. And so today is just really the organic conversation about how fathers play that important role. And so thank you for being here. And so I want to start off today, people are probably wondering, what is the IEFIC? What is their role in the community, in the county, in the region, and nationally? Because I know you have been sought out to really speak on a national level. You've had what's called this Fatherhood Toolbox that you created. That is an amazing thing, and I'm sure you'll probably talk about that today. But can you share a little bit about what the IEFIC is and the work that's been done in the community for everyone to know what this role is? And I think you muted yourself, sir, so we're going to have to
Yeah, so that's another thing I wanted to let you know, and apologize to those folks as well out there that'll be viewing this. We do have, obviously, everybody's having to work from the office, work from home, telecommuting, and so there is another meeting. So you'll probably hear from time to time certain conversations in the background, so my apologies for that. However, yeah, definitely it's IEFIC. We've been around, as you well know, and it's funny me telling you because you already know all this, right? But It's really good work because I feel that all the work that was done ahead of time was able to lead to what we're doing now. All the groundwork that our we like to call the founding fathers, right? That really looked at father involvement back in 2013. I myself have been around for quite some time in this work as well. So I share freely how I am a former system involved father, so been able to see things from both sides of the fences, right? As a former system involved father, trying to figure things out there in the real world, trying to navigate so many different services, and then being able to give back. That was my whole process, is really how can I give back to my community, how can I really help now that I've done so many changes within my life. And so within child welfare, we were able to start up as well as a part of the father initiative within child welfare. And that was really a big eye opener for many folks as far as when we talk about father involvement. And it never really failed. I mean, I think every time we had a presentation or every time I shared with folks what the importance of father involvement is, um, we heard, or we always hear like, man, I wasn't even aware that this was a thing. We don't do too much for fathers. We do need to look what we can do more for fathers. You're gonna have to excuse me because there's somebody else in here as well. Um, and so really with all this work and now being able to have with IEFIC really solidified within the county and looking how we are doing all this work, like what is it that IEFIC does. So we were able to get to work early on and really look at which way do we want to head to. And so a lot of the things that we looked at were really reaching our fathers through social media, which is our Father's Toolbox. And so I'm going to skip some of these slides only because so obviously that's my family there. I do want to go back because I always like every time I attend a training or every time I attend a presentation, I always want to know more about the presenter. So this is my family, my huge family. I always say I got 20 kids. Obviously it's only 6, but to me it feels like 20, especially right now with online learning. Feels like I have a child in every single room in my house. But it's okay. We're gonna get through it, right? And so that's my family there. So busy person. Obviously, this is what we do here on the soccer picture there. You see a soccer net in the background. That's what we do. We're a soccer family. So we're constantly going prior to this whole pandemic thing. If we weren't at church, we're at school. If we weren't at school, we're at soccer training. If we weren't at soccer training, we're all at work and doing something. We're constantly on the go. And so that's what I do. That's who I am. I'm a father engagement coordinator by day, and I'm a soccer coach by night. Really focusing a lot on my kids' education was huge. And so that's kind of what got us thinking with this Father's Toolbox is how can we reach our dads through social media? How can we reach our dads just in general? A lot of the ideas that came from that was just on my personal life, seeing a lot of folks when we have family gatherings, everybody's always on their phones. And I'm like, we really need to get out there in our utilize that social media aspect. So with our Father's Toolbox, we were able to connect not just with fathers, but also other agencies and schools that are interested in looking at how they engage dads. I think right now more than ever is a great momentum going into this whole fatherhood work. We have a lot of folks that are, really looking at how can we bring in the dads, how can, what is it that we can do collectively? And that's what we like to do within IEFIC. We don't really provide direct services to fathers. We don't have like a case management thing or anything like that. It's more along the lines of partnering with our partners that are in the county and the community that are family servicing agencies and really looking at their father engagement efforts. Some of our father engagement trainings that we have that we like to hold within IEFIC is really looking at how can we slow down as an agency to speed things up. And so what I mean by that is that when we say we're a family servicing agency, we really look at, servicing mom, servicing the kids, wash our hands, move on to the next family. So we like to just kind of slow things down. How can we intentionally engage dads? And so through our Father's Toolbox, we had some schools that reached out and we were able to sit with them and talk with them and just go over as far as, you know, their marketing efforts. What do your flyers look like? Are they really intentionally outreaching to fathers and families, or is it just a general, you know, what I always used to say is when my kids were first starting out going to school, I would always get flyers sent home, and they had butterflies, they had cute little roses, and, you know, talk about parent workshop or whatever. But, you know, if it wasn't, if it was another person, another guy, he'd be like, hey babe, this is for you, honey, you go, mom. But me being me, I've always wanted to be involved in my kids' school, because I didn't have that growing up. So I would show up, you know, automatically show up to these workshops. Especially when my wife went to work, she also was working for the county. And when I was at home with my son, as he was, you know, just 3, 4 years old, going to Head Start, I saw these different workshops and I would attend. A lot of times I'd be the only dad there, right? And so that's what we're looking at, is how can we intentionally engage dads? How can we intentionally bring in a dad? And it starts with the marketing. And so after sitting with some of the school folks, they brought back, after we did a follow up, they brought back and they had an awesome flyer that was very gender neutral, right? And they even included the little father's welcome. And they reported that they had more dads, you know, show up more. I mean, they've never had a father show up to either any of their events, and because of that little, you know, tool, they were able to engage fathers, some of the fathers that came in. Now, obviously, it wasn't a whole bunch, but it was more than usual. So that's just a good start, right? Then we looked at, you know, how can we start up donuts with dads? You know, how can we bring in the fathers, let them have a good time with their child before they go to class, and then once the kids go to class, hold the fathers there and just kind of share how important their role is. Number one. Number two is how can they get involved with their child's education? What does involvement look like? Is it doing their homework? Is it, you know, getting to know of their 504 IEP plans and things along that nature? You know, not just dropping them off, which is great. Of course, that's a big help, but, you know, just going a little bit extra, because how important that role is and how more confident a child is within their school. And so, also volunteering at the schools, you know, what are some, a lot of schools have a lot of volunteering opportunities, and are they aware of that? You know, do they know the steps of even volunteering? I know when I first started looking into volunteering in my kids' school, I had to submit a background check and all that. And so sometimes it'd be in the middle of the year. However, those background checks take a while. So what I started doing after year 1 or 2, after my kids started going to school, the first thing that I would do in the first day of school is submit my application, so that way I can automatically be cleared. And when either any events that are going on at the school or any field trips, you know, I'd already be cleared and I'd be able to help out as much as I can, whether it's be cleaning up around the school or just even just there as a, you know, a helping hand. And so, and that's pretty much what we try to encourage dads through those groups. Um, and that's pretty much what we do, as far as school, on the school end, with our education partners, is what we like to do. We were established back in 2013, as you well know, Mr. Mars. You were a part of that group, and y'all came up with the mission and vision, and I love this mission, where we want to encourage healthy child development by promoting the involvement, necessity, and value of fathers and the families in the community. And the vision goes along, lined up with, you know, a lot of the success we want to see with our families, where we envision of men fully engaged as stable, supportive educators and providers, and serve as healthy family role models, highlighting responsible fatherhood. So again, it's supportive educators, right? Education should start at home, with us as fathers being that role model for our kids so that they can succeed. Um, and pretty much when we're looking at father involvement and you define it, it's pretty much this is where it's just positive engagement, direct interaction with children, with their children, right? And including caregiving and shared activities, fathers' availability for their children. So we get it. I work, right? We have our careers. But how can we kind of balance that to where we're still available for our kids if they need help in school? They need help in their homework, especially right now with online learning. I find myself calling or texting my wife, making sure and checking in, making sure everything is going well at home. You know, are they having connection issues, or, you know, is there anything that I need to come home real quick, or at lunchtime, I jam home and try to be there for them, just making sure, checking in, just to check in. I think more mental wellness on the mental wellness end is just checking in on the kids and checking in on my wife, making sure she doesn't need any extra help, or if I can do anything on my way home, probably start at the market. So that would, because her being home and having to navigate all that with the kids is pretty draining, and so I try to be do a little more than usual, even though a lot of these things I already did, but I think even more now we need to work as a team. um, and so that's pretty much what we encourage, because when you see the benefits to children of positive father involvement, is positive social, emotional, and cognitive outcomes for children, from infancy all the way through adolescence, right? We see that kids do better in school. They're more likely to not just graduate college. They're more likely, so it's not guaranteed, but they're more likely to pursue even college work. And so, and all this just comes from father involvement with all the research that's been out there and done, and it really shows the important role that these dads play. So we like to highly encourage our dads. If you don't know what involvement means, or if you don't know where to start, we would love to, even though we don't provide direct services, we have many of our partners out in our community that that support dads and can educate fathers. And county schools does a great job as well with some of these programs and allowing these programs within their schools. But we see myths about fathers, right? That fathers are dispensable. They're not as important. It could be done without them, and it can. I mean, my mom tried her best to raise two knuckleheads, right? So I get it. There's single parents, single moms out there, and amazing moms that do a great job. However, there's just that extra role that father contributes to the family. Fathers can't parent on their own. Fathers can't nurture babies. Fathers do not want to be involved or included. And I think this is mainly towards the young dads. We see our teen dads. A lot of the myths that we hear is like the PowerPoint on the very bottom, one of the points or the bullets say young fathers run from responsibilities. But really, research shows that when young fathers, teens become fathers, they want to be involved, right? They want to be a part of this little child's life. But it's the barriers that they face, whether it's the mom's family obviously upset because they got the young mom pregnant. I'm a father, I got 3 girls, and I'd be upset too, right? If my teenage daughter would come home pregnant, of course I'd be upset. But me being in this field, I understand that young man is going to play a huge role in my grandchild's life, and I need to, if anything, encourage, empower. What's done is done, but he's going to play a big role, and my grandchild's future, the trajectory of his future comes a lot from that young dad. So I need to encourage that dad. But again, it's easier said than done in the heat of the moment, right? But that's just, the research just shows that dads, they want to be involved, but when they're faced with all these barriers, when they're not included in the decision making, when they're not included in any of the early pregnancy decisions and appointments, they're less likely to have that connection, and they're more likely to walk away from it. So it's not that they don't want to, there's just many different factors that are played in that. On the other myths is fathers don't want to spend time with their kids. The children will be abused if cared by father. And then the last bullet where it says black fathers are absent. So there's a lot of research that shows the contrary to that last bullet, where actually black fathers are known, black and African American fathers are known to be even more engaged than other groups, which is very, very interesting, where they have that great research that shows that black African American fathers and even fathers of color are really more likely to be engaged given the opportunity. And these are just some of the barriers that fathers face within their own personal qualities or characteristics of fathers that prevent positive involvement. It's just they're either incarceration, obviously, mental health issues, which is another thing that we look at is when we look at mental health stigmatism and how dads are less likely to reach out for support because dad's supposed to have, or men are supposed to have things in order. They don't go in and look for help because then that's a sign of weakness, or so on and so on. Substance abuse, culture values, not ready to be a parent. There are those dads that, oh, I'm not ready for this. I don't, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think I'll do a good job. Part of my background is with working with children and family services, and some of the things that those dads would tell me was that, I think my kids are better off without me. All I do is mess up. I don't want to mess up their lives, so I think it's just best that mom takes care of them. They have mom and grandma and so on and so on. And it's no, you have a huge impact. You do matter, and you can't do this as a father. Some of the other barriers that we see is, family dynamics, circumstances within the family, as I mentioned earlier, particularly with those young dads that face those kind of barriers, geographic separation, possibly domestic violence, intimate partner violence, maternal gatekeeping, moms fouling out of a relationship, as we spoke about a little while ago. Those are just some of the familial barriers that, fathers face. And as organizations, we see, hours of operation. If dads do want to get that help, or even if we stay in the topic of schools, a lot of the workshops that I would attend back when I was going to these workshops with my kids in elementary and things like that when they were younger, a lot of these workshops, and even now they're in middle school and high school, a lot of the workshops or coffee with the principal are during my work hours. So if I wanted to go, and I still make an issue to go, I ask, I'm gonna have to take a couple hours. I got to go to my kid's school. Luckily, I have that flexibility, and attend those things that are going on at 10 o'clock in the morning when I'm supposed to be at work, right? But I take that time because I want to be involved in my kid's school. Some of the dads can't, some dads have those, and even moms too, but some of those parents have those working hours where they can't leave because they have either a very crucial position where they can't leave, maybe a assembly line or something. And so those are the things we want to look at. Can we do some of these workshops, and after work, or even before, after school or before school, kind of like how we did the Donuts with Dads. We were strategically setting the time for right before school, so that when the dads drop off their children, they're already used to doing that. They come a little earlier, have that breakfast, have that time with their kids, and then we get to present to them for a little bit, then they're off to work. So things along those lines. Lack of male staff. A lot of times, whether it's those family service providers, they don't have, it's all women dominated field, is social service. We see that, dads are a little hesitant, or lack of commitment to dads. We don't intentionally look to service fathers, engage dads. Obviously funding, lack of resources, some of the policies that are put in place, on staffing, mistrust of systems, and then systems mistrust of fathers. When we're looking at societal barriers, we look at lack of males in social service, support for maternal gatekeeping. Some of the media messages that we see, right, where caring for children is women's work. That's no place for the dad. Dad, you just provide. Obviously, that's something that is entirely not true. We have the deadbeat dad, or Disneyland dad. Obviously, nowadays ain't nobody gonna be a Disneyland dad because Disneyland is very expensive. We're gonna take them to Disneyland. And so when we look at our county in general, we started seeing some staggering numbers that really raised the eyebrows, and what really kicked off our fatherhood initiative in our county. And we started seeing where, among female-headed households with no husband, 43.5% were below poverty level. That's pretty scary when we look at poverty in San Bernardino County. We saw an increase in single-parent homes. 35.2% of those living in poverty were single-parent homes. And then children living with mother, we saw the numbers rise from the 1960s all the way through 2012. Now, I can't wait to see the outcome of our census 2020. I hope folks are really looking at submitting their census 2020, because we want to see these updated as well. I think now more than ever, from what I'm hearing, we're seeing more dads engage their children because they have to. They're at home with them a lot of times. But we would really like to see some updates on these numbers to see where we're at right now. But again, just staying with the numbers and stats, all the way through birth, all the way through the school years, We see compared to pregnant women without father support, pregnant women with father support experience a low prevalence of pregnancy loss. And that's huge. We have a perinatal equity initiative within our county that's really looking right now at Black and African American moms and infants. We have a high rate of infant mortality in our county, and enough to where it raised enough eyebrows. So now we have an initiative to address that and looking at what can we do to empower and educate our Black and African American moms. More importantly, make sure that they get the proper services that they need so that they can have a healthy birth. But when you look at it from a fatherhood lens, and we see this issue rise in our county, and then we also have the same rise of concern with father absenteeism. And when you look at it from my fatherhood lens, which I do, you see that there's a match. As a matter of fact, the infant mortality is not just right now. It's the higher rate is with Black and African American women and babies. However, it's across the board, right? And when we look at it, and they have their graphs where whether it's Hispanic, people of color, white, and they have their graphs, and they almost match the same graphs that we have within father absenteeism. So again, it's not that fatherhood is the answer to everything, but it plays a huge role in that family component. And we see here with dad's involvement during pregnancy, it positively influences health outcomes for mom, dad, and baby. Now, for me, it seems to me to be common sense. Why do we need to waste dollars to have research done on this? But it makes sense. It really does. Allowing new fathers to be involved in caring for their child in the first days of child's life can have positive long-term benefits. And then these are some of my other favorite slides as well. We already talked about poverty rate, right? When we look at children raised in a father absent home, they're more likely to experience behavioral problems. Now, my son took a picture in preschool exactly like this. I don't know why he looks so mad. That guy is adorable. I love that picture. I asked my son, "Why did you look like that in that picture?" He goes, "Well, the guy was trying to make me laugh in my school picture." I'm like, "Why didn't you laugh?" He's like, "Well, he wasn't funny." It's hilarious. I love that slide, man. It reminds me so much of my boy. Children raised in a father absent home, when we look at health, right, 2 times more likely to suffer from obesity. Involved dads lead to less distress in toddlers. And some of the scarier slides, right? Daughters are less likely to engage in risky sexual behavior when they have consistent contact and a sense of closeness with their dads. I have 3 daughters, as I mentioned before, and every time I present or I share these slides or do any other research, I make sure I go home that same day and love on my girls extra, because I don't want them engaging in any type of sexual behavior, much less risky. And so for me, I'm like, man, I'm gonna make sure I have a closeness with my daughters, because that's pretty scary when you look at that, and it's true, right? And then this is basically my favorite slide, really, is father involvement in schools is associated with the higher likelihood of a student getting mostly A's. So we can easily say kids do better in school when dads are involved, when they have that support. But this research really gets in detail that they get mostly A's when a father is involved in their schools. And again, what does involvement look like, right? Helping with the homework, coming to parent-teacher conferences, open school, what's that? I forget
Open
what
house.
Yeah,
Open house. Yeah.
There you go. Open house.
And now we're doing virtual open houses, right? So that's
Right.
a different way of doing things. But
Yeah, it looks different, but you can still be engaged, right? It's just going to look different what your engagement looks like now. So I mean, this is pretty much what this training, this specific slide here is what we train or what we provide on our presentations to not just schools, but our social service agencies, family servicing agencies, whether it's family, marriage and family therapists, or just any child support. All of our agencies that are partnered up, that sit at our table with us, we really look at that. It goes all the way down from the E-team, executive team, to the management, all the way down to even receptionists, because they're the first line of communication with our staff. So when we look at schools, those receptionists that are welcoming folks in there, are they welcoming them with a smile? That was one thing that I used to, some dads used to voice, like, well, I would get involved in my kid's school, but it doesn't seem like like I'm wanted there. It doesn't seem like, I'm welcomed. It's like, they greet my wife, or they greet mom with, a big old smile, sometimes even hug, and they don't really acknowledge me. So it's not purposely done, right? And we're not saying go hug on dads or nothing like that, but it's more along the lines of just, just proper customer service. Really, is just, engaging, both parents. I experienced that as well when my kids first started going to school. Where I would go to the parent teacher conference, and the teacher's really engaging mom, eye contact, everything, body language was facing mom the whole time. And lo and behold, I'm the one that's helping my kids with the school, with the homework and at home, things along that nature. And it's not, I don't believe it's done purposely. It's just that as a society, we're used to just mom there. And so I think what we're like, our message is not that you're doing something wrong. It's just more along how can we do it differently? How can we engage and be more inclusive so that fathers can be called in, right? Because it's not calling out the dad, it's calling in the dad, and that's totally two different things that we like to pretty much. So I'll skip these. These are just recruitment strategies and retention strategies. To keep. How can we engage dads? Actually, I think it's pretty relevant for now. We're looking at recruitment. Being creative with advertising, as we said before. Um, and I believe there's another slide with some good content regarding what a flyer can look like when you send home and you want dads to be engaged. But again, we don't just focus on reaching the agencies and letting them know what recruitment may look like. We also like to let dads know, as far as, what their involvement looks like. But I think that we also need to focus on how we can educate moms and inform moms why father involvement is important. Because a lot of things that I used to get, again, back when I was at Children and Family Services, a lot of our dads were like, man, I appreciate you, educating me, getting me this information. I am encouraged to get involved, but when I try, I get the same door slammed in my face. So we have been trying to get creative and really look at how can we um, partner with those agencies that do service moms specifically, and how they can help and educate moms as a family, how important it is to have that involved when he is trying to get involved for the sake of their children, right? For the benefit that these children get when they do have a father involved. But again, these are just some quick tips. Um, Host a Bring a Friend, co-sponsor a highly visible event specifically for dads, offer recruitment incentives. You hear all the time, if you have food, you'll see them come. That's true, but it's not entirely true. Sometimes, when we look at even just the times of these programs that are put in place, um, designating a staff member to lead that effort. I know you in the county schools, you have your family engagement liaisons, and a lot of the folks that I've been meeting out there are amazing and do a great job at engaging parents. Um, and I've sat down with a few where they're more than open to, what, let's reach out to dads more intentionally, and that's all it's all about, is just intentionally reaching out to the dads. Encourage mothers who are participating in activities to invite men. Sometimes, if it's not a dad that's there, possibly another male role model. Could be grandpa, could be brothers, uncles. It could be even bio dad's family. It could be bio dad's brother, paternal uncle, paternal grandfather, things along that nature. Um, Creative general neutrals, flyers, we already went over that, but I think that's one of the big ones there. That's the start, right? Is the notice of dads that are welcomed and wanted to be at the schools. Some of the retention strategies, we always try. I remember us sitting down at our tables and just looking at, okay, how can we engage dads? What can we do, this and this and that? I think when we really started making headway was when we actually invited the dads to our meetings. And obviously there's folks that sat at our table that are part of, some agency, and they're obviously dads as well. So we were already getting kind of some things from dads. However, we were really looking at what these dads that we are trying to reach to, right? That meet the description of who we're trying to reach. But when we started bringing them to the meetings, that's when we really started seeing a big difference into our efforts. Like, where were we really focusing on? And that takes me back to my days at the Day Reporting Center for Parolees. I had a workshop there / parenting class / motivational class. It was a mixture of many different things. And these guys would tell me like, man, I appreciate these parenting tips. I appreciate, your class. It's great. I do feel a little better. But when I leave this place, I still have the same issues out there. I still don't have a job. I still, don't have health insurance. I can't even vote. What can you do for me there? So those kind of things being voiced really helped us out in making some headway in how we're working in our efforts. Train men as facilitators of activities, recognize the effort and contribution of fathers, and set up an assessment team that includes parents and staff to really look at how we can retain the dads once involved. And then father-friendly environments. Again, we started our Father's Toolbox series where I go and make videos. We make videos on tips for dads and how they can get involved in their kids' school, activities they can do with their kids at home. It's all on our Facebook page. But the awesome part was that the partners that sat at our table within our coalition, they all started jumping on board. And now they want to play these videos in their lounge, in their lobbies, so that way when families come in, it's a father-friendly environment where they see many things, not just for mom and kids, but also a welcoming video for dads. And that's pretty much when we talk about father-friendly environment. That's a really good strategy when we see dads come to your offices and saying, okay, this is somewhere where I will get the help because it's message to me that I'm important. Again, use inclusive or gender neutral language. Review your strategic plan and mission to include fathers. Or does it include fathers? Does it include family, or is it just mom and kids? What's the wording around that? So those are some of the things that we recommend. So again, this is what we do. IEFIC, Inland Empire Father Involvement Coalition does is, provide consultations. We can sit down with a team. I've sat down with plenty of teams and look at what their efforts are currently and what they can look like. And that's pretty much the flyer that they came back with after we talked about certain strategies. And I circled back and they're like, look, Juan, this is what we came up with. It looks great. It worked. We never had a dad come with any, not even coffee with a principal, but just any of our events. Since we put the Father's Welcome, we started seeing more and more dads come, and it works. I'm telling you, dads want to be involved. They just need to know that they're welcome. They just need to know the opportunity. You hold you hold the event, and they will show up. That was one of the schools that I partnered up with. We did Donuts with Dads. We had a room full of fathers and their kids. It was a great sight to my eyes to see dads engaging with their kids, having breakfast, continental breakfast, just having laughs. And then we were able to connect with them afterwards, letting them know what's in the community, what resources are out there. So that way, that's really one of our preventative pieces that we like to look at is how can we prevent a father or a family from being system involved, right? We don't want CFS, CPS being involved with this family. We don't want any type of system involvement. And so how can we connect with these families early on? And this is one of the best ways is really working with them in the schools, engaging with them in the schools, and informing them of the resources that are out in the community. Our research shows that the more connected families are to the resources in their community, the less likely they are to come into the system. So again, so many different positives that come out of these type of events. We also hold our Nurturing Fathers program facilitator training. Agencies that are looking at the more awareness we bring, we started seeing more agencies looking at starting fatherhood programs. And so we hold our facilitator training, where it's a 2-day training. We train their staff as facilitators, and they hold this Nurturing Fathers program. And it's pretty awesome. It's been kicking off. We have many different agencies in different regions in our county, because we all know that San Bernardino County is the biggest county in our country. And it's awesome to see, agencies in Victorville and Barstow and San Bernardino area and Fontana, different regions to hold these fatherhood programs so they're more accessible to our dads that are looking for that support. And again, our father engagement trainings, there's agencies out there looking to educate and encourage their staff to look at father engagement as an important part or component in their agency. How can you get that buy-in? We are here for you. We will come out. I will come out and present, and it'll look pretty much similar to what I'm doing now, but I'll definitely sharpen the edges and make it a little more exciting. But definitely, we're always open to come out and present and just share, the importance of father involvement. What does that look like? So that way that the agency as a whole has a buy-in and really looking at engaging dads intentionally. I just include that we were nominated as a Achievement Award winner for the NACO Award with our Father's Toolbox series, a very innovative way of connecting with fathers and social media platforms. Obviously, we also participate in outreach events in support of parenthood. However, with this whole pandemic, a lot of those outreaches have kind of, they just look differently. And so, but we're always open to providing our pamphlets, our brochures to agencies that are holding drive-through resource fairs. We've done that already. And we share a lot of our content so that way the dads can get these pamphlets in their hands and look at how they can engage with their kids or with their children in any age group. And these are some of our events. Prior to the pandemic that we held our All-Star Dads Breakfast every June. Really rallied our dads and celebrated those dads that are involved in their kids, in their child's life. A lot of this really focused early on was a focus on our system involved dads that had children and family services cases, CPS cases, and that, regained custody, got back with their kids and really celebrated those fathers. But since then, it's opened up to all dads in general, because we want to connect and have that camaraderie among men, understanding that they're not the only ones in the struggle. Dads and families face different challenges, and they're not alone. Our Fatherhood Conference, amazing event. I love that event. We have keynote speakers, we have prizes, we have workshops that dads can sit in and really learn. One of my favorite workshops was a hair clinic, getting to know how to do my girls' hairs, had different hairstyles, braiding. But not just that, is also connecting with my kids through a Widows Fight organization, a nonprofit organization. Ms. Jessica Crochet, she held this clinic, and it's awesome because it's not just doing my daughter's hair, it's also those healthy conversations I can have and creating a safe space to have those conversations by simply just doing her hair, you know what I mean? And so, again, these are just different ways that we encourage fathers and we educate our community on how dads can get involved with their children. And that's pretty much the gist of it. I can go on all day long, to be honest with you, because this is like my favorite topic. Anybody that knows me knows that if you ask me what I do for a living, you better be prepared for the rest of the night to hang out with me. I feel that fatherhood is huge for me. Like I said, I'm a former system involved dad, and you saw the picture of my family, and it just scares me to think that had I not made those right choices, right? Because I did lose my kids for a small period of time. Had I not made those choices to make the change, number one. But number two, those folks that were involved, right? Because I did have to go to counseling and many different services. My church life really took off. My spiritual walk is what really got me to make those major changes. However, those other services that were put in place did play a role. And so the counselors, the facilitators at the parenting classes, the other counselors that they had to bring in because I had so much junk to carry, right? All those people played a role in engaging me as a father and encouraging me as a father. And so that's really what we're looking at, is how can we encourage our dads? How can we encourage our service providers to see that family as a unit and not really just focus, okay, we service mom, we service the kids, let's move on, right?
Well, Juan, I just want to say to you, thank you for being vulnerable. You've mentioned several times today that, you were system involved, and I know a lot about your life just based on what you've shared with me. But to see where you have been and where you are going now, particularly with the work that you're doing here in this county, and it's just showing within your own family, your own children. So thank you for just being, very vulnerable and sharing your family with us and your experience. I also really like the fact that you were very courageous today about talking about the myths, particularly around, African American males being absent. And I think that's an important myth to debunk. The reality, as you said, that fathers want to be engaged, but there's so many barriers out there. And today you were able to bring out some issues around unconscious bias. And many times we think about unconscious bias in the areas of race, but the gender biases that happen in our school systems, as you said, having wifey sitting next to you and you sitting there and everything being, given to your wife. And I think it's just an unconscious bias that people have been so used to seeing moms at school systems. So thank you for breaking down those barriers and those bias issues in our school systems. I know you and I have worked tremendously together to make sure that our 33 school districts in the county have your resources. And I do want to congratulate you for having that NACO award presented to the county for the work that we've done. I think that was a huge highlight for us, and it continues to be great work. And one of my quotes that I always say to people is that if you don't spend time with them, someone or something else will. What I mean by that is that someone could be a negative influence on a child, or it could be that technology piece that you don't want to be that negative influence, or where it could connect them to something else, particularly now that we're so much more in a virtual world. So again, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any closing remarks before we head out?
No, I just think I just want to encourage those fathers and parents that are out there in the community during these times to just look at it as a chance to partner and make a team with the teachers. And in my household, we are pro teachers. We definitely support our educators, and we try to let that know early on. We have great relationships with each and every one of our children's schools because we feel that if we look at it as a team effort, and we look at partnering and just voicing, your concerns or challenges that your children may be having, and how can we collectively work together with the teachers to make sure that our kids stay on point, stay on top of their studies. I had to recently reach out to one of my my daughter's a freshman in high school, and had to reach out to one of her teachers. And at first, the plan was to advocate for her. But I assured the teachers that as much as I advocate for my children, I'm also advocating for the teachers, because my kids need to understand to, number one, respect, right? Number two, be responsible in their works. Just because some of the things that I'm advocating for you doesn't mean that I'm always going to go up to bat for you, right? Because kids do that, right? Oh yeah, I turned it in. I turned in my assignments. Like, no, you didn't, and it's okay though. But I think I want to encourage more. Let's do this as a team effort. I think now more than ever, we really need to see how we can team up with our educators so that we can stay on top of these things, and it's simple communication.
Well, great tips there, sir. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, Juan, what's the best way to reach you? I know that in your name there, you have your email address there. I'm not sure how that's going to show up in the recording, but can you give the folks at home listening?
Yeah, you can definitely reach me at Children's Network, and the phone number there is 909-383-9677. But I would really encourage folks to connect with us on Facebook at facebook.com/IEFathers. That's where you'll get a lot of our information and any resources we like to push out that our partners share with us. We try to make sure that we share as well. And if you just want to connect with me as well, you can reach me at not just the phone number, but also at my email address, which is juan.solis@hss.sbcounty.gov. And we'd also have our Instagram. It's at Inland Fathers. Now I'm trying to get as much motivated in the social media world, because I'm not too big on social media, but I have been making sure that I do my part and connecting with those on social media, because I know that's where everybody's at. And it's funny because we started our Father's Toolbox series, and so anyways, we have a lot of content. We'll have more content there as well, but we just want to connect with our community so that we can encourage dads and families to just move forward and get connected to what we call the pipeline to success.
Well, Juan, thank you again for being here today. We appreciate you, sir, and we look forward to our continued and collective work.
Thank you for all the hard work you do, Mars. You're an inspiration to everyone, man. Really are. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, my brother.
All right.